Let's take 3 deep breaths to get us all in sort of the same space. Inhale and exhale. And inhale and exhale. And one more time, nice and slow. Inhale and exhale. It's lovely to have all of you here this morning.
Good morning. My name is Michael Owens. I have the joy of being your worship associate today. I use the pronouns he and him. Also participating in our service today is our minister, Reverend Gail Lindsay Mariner, our music director, Lydia Madrick, and our guest musicians, Dirk and Cheryl Haskin, and Steve Pollard. We're also grateful for our tech team back there at the back, Michael Morford, John Lehman, and Jim Asparo, and for the tech team behind the scenes, including Jim Kramer and our data person, Douglas Kramer, our office staff, Aaron Levitman and Mary Kurtz, the people who watch the parking lot, the greeters, those who set out the snacks, and all the other people who help us put on a Sunday together. It is good to be together here in this special place. So, we're going to have our first song. Oh, before I do that, for the young people in the room who may not know, we have a place at the back called the Tree House, full of kinds of crayons and books and all kinds of interesting things to do, that if you find yourself feeling kind of restless as you sit there in the audience and you would like to go back there and find something else to do, please feel free. So our first song is going to be by our guest musicians. Take it away.
When you raised all the forests, silenced all the birds, destroyed creation that came before your words, when you stamped to the ground all the things you feared, one thing to be sure of, I'll still be here.
Remember the treaty you have made with me. As long as grass grows and the sky is blue and rivers run free, does this not mean forever? Did we not agree? Or will lies and broken promises be your legacy?
Who am I, your honor? Who am I, your grace? Who do you see standing here as you look upon my face? Hear me, Mr. President, this is sacred ground. You cannot own my spirit, or you might lay me down.
So take all your children, teach them your lies, while water's all polluted, smoke fills the skies. You can drain all the oceans, fill them with tears. You will never remove me, I'll always be here.
When you seat your council, who will come to speak? For the buffalo, the eagle, the forests and the trees, the oceans and their bounty, and all who here abide, and for all the children who stand here at our side. Who am I, your honor? Who am I, your grace? Who do you see standing here as you look upon my face? Hear me, Mr. President, this is sacred ground. You cannot own my spirit, though you might lay me down. You cannot take my spirit, this is sacred ground.
Thank you. Our opening words this morning are from the Reverend Dick Gilbert, who writes, "Be gentle with one another. It is a cry from the lives of people battered by thoughtless words and brutal deeds. It comes from the lips of those who speak them and the lives of those who do them. Who of us can look inside another and know what is there of hope and hurt and promise and pain? Who can know from what far places each has come or to what far places each may hope to go? Our lives are like fragile eggs. They crack, and the substance escapes. Handle with care. Handle with exceedingly tender care. For there are human beings within. Human beings as vulnerable as we are, who feel as we feel and hurt as we hurt. Life is too transient to be cruel with one another. It is too short for thoughtlessness, too brief for hurting. Life is long enough for caring. It is lasting enough for sharing, precious enough for love. Be gentle with one another."
We continue with our chalice lighting with words from Reverend Michelle Collins. We light this chalice as we learn to hold both tenderness and strength. May this flame illuminate the wisdom to know when compassion calls us to offer comfort and when it demands outrageous action. We continue now with another song from our guest musicians, Gunmetal Eyes.
His mama was a Cherokee princess, so it was said. And his daddy was a Seminole rebel with a price on his head. And the other kids teased him, but I never did see him to cry. Man, there was some kind of righteous in the steel of his gunmetal eyes. Run with the wolf, fly like the dove, mother below, father above. Weep with the earth, sing to the sky, in the steel of your gunmetal eyes. Well, he grew up in the washes and the rushes and the rain and the wind. And the creatures of the forest and the field were his only real friends. And the lily of the valley and the nettle of the plains taught him well. And the new moon shone on him as he wandered through the gully and the dell. Run with the wolf, fly like the dove, mother below, father above. Weep with the earth, sing to the sky, in the steel of your gunmetal eyes. Now one misty morning he heard the big bulldozers groan, and the chainsaws and the felling of trees and the breaking of stone. And the boss man knew better, but he had an empire to raise. And one lone man before him with a rifle and doom on his face. Get on home, cried the owner, 'cause I hold the deed to this land. And I ain't had no time to be fooling with no wild Indian man. And he gathered his strong boys around him and he called his police. There was no turning back for the son of a Seminole chief. Run with the wolf, fly like the dove, mother below, father above. Weep with the earth, sing to the sky, in the steel of your gunmetal eyes. Now some say he died in the fight and was buried that day. Some say he raged like an angel and he chased them away. But the green hills stand silent and nobody goes there no more. Just the ghosts and the memories and the shadows on the dark forest floor. Run with the wolf, fly like the dove, mother below, father above. Weep with the earth, sing to the sky, in the steel of your gunmetal eyes. In the steel of your gunmetal eyes.
Our first reading today is a retelling of the story of the blind men and the elephant. This version was written by James Baldwin. There were once 6 blind men who stood by the roadside every day and begged from the people who passed. They often had heard of elephants, but they had never seen one, for being blind, how could they? It so happened one morning that an elephant was driven down the road where they stood. When they were told that the great beast was before them, they asked the driver to stop so that they might see him. Of course, they could not see him with their eyes, but they thought that by touching him, they could learn just what kind of animal he was. So the first one approached and happened to put his hand on the elephant's side and said, "Well, well, now I know all about this beast. He is exactly like a wall." The second felt only of the elephant's tusk. "My brother," he said, "you are wrong. He is not at all like a wall. He is round and smooth and sharp. He is more like a spear than anything else." The third happened to take hold of the elephant's trunk. "Both of you are mistaken," he said. "Anyone who knows anything can see that this elephant is like a snake." The fourth reached out his arms and grasped one of the elephant's legs. "Oh, how blind you are," he said. "It is very plain to me that he is round and tall like a tree." The fifth man was a very tall man, and he chanced to take hold of the elephant's ear. "The blindest man ought to know that this beast is not like any of the things that you name," he said. "He is exactly like a huge fan." The sixth was very blind indeed, and it was some time before he could find the elephant at all. At last he seized the elephant's tail. "Oh, foolish fellows," he cried, "you surely have lost your senses. The elephant is not like a wall or a spear or a snake or a tree or a fan. But any man with a particle of sense can see he is exactly like a rope." Then the elephant moved on, and the 6 blind men sat by the roadside all day and quarreled about him. Each believed that he knew just how the animal looked, and each called the other hard names because they did not agree with him. People who have eyes sometimes act as foolishly.
Thank you, Mike. So Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, in a piece titled "The Danger of a Single Story," writes, "The consequence of the single story is that it robs people of dignity. It makes our recognition of our equal humanity difficult, and it emphasizes that we are different rather than how we are similar." This past week was Banned Books Week, a week to draw attention to the number of books that groups across the country have tried to remove from our public schools. According to PEN America, in the 2024-2025 school year, PEN America recorded 6,870 instances of book bans, affecting nearly 4,000 unique titles. For the third straight year, Florida was the #1 state for book bans with 2,304 instances, followed by Texas with 1,781, and Tennessee with 1,622. Books that deal with issues around race, ethnicity, and sexuality are frequent targets as groups and individuals try to reinforce the single story of America and what it means to be American. Now, it might not look like book bans are trying to enforce a singular narrative, but by suppressing the experiences and perspectives of people different than themselves, that is exactly what they are accomplishing. Rather than honoring the diversity of lives and experiences across our nation, book bans try to erase the experiences and even the existence of whole groups of people. Book bans are a form of othering. It's almost like the people who are arguing for banning books are trying to enforce a central cultural rule that says you can only tell stories about this elephant, what this elephant feels like, or sounds like, or smells like, what this elephant looks like. It might be okay to tell stories about how to take care of the elephant, or how to train the elephant, or even how to ride the elephant and who gets to do that. But they better be stories about this elephant and how wonderful this elephant is. Even though negative stories about the elephant, for instance, like what an elephant can do if it tramples through a farmer's field in the night, or what it could do to an opposing army, even negative stories still reinforce this elephant paradigm. Because this morning, we're using the elephant as a metaphor for an overarching worldview or narrative or paradigm, what Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie calls the single story. And the elephant in the room, and in just about every room in our culture, is called by a lot of different names. Maybe they're each a different part of the elephant. Maybe extractive capitalism is the ear, and patriarchy is the trunk, and autocracy is the tusk, and the side of the elephant is white supremacy culture, and the tail is settler colonialism. It looks like a whole bunch of different stories, but they're all describing different parts of the same thing, and they're all mutually reinforcing. Now, one of the first things that people do when they figure out that there is a singular narrative that's trying to control things is that they start telling stories that the main narrative either ignores or suppresses. So you or we tell feminist stories with strong female characters in order to try to disrupt the patriarchy. Or we tell stories about LGBTQAI+, add the acronyms I've forgotten, to expand the gender binary. And if you want to expand your understanding of the gender binary, I invite you to look at the little placards under each of the many pride flags that are hung around the room. Each one has a different little bit of a story that will open our understanding of the world. Or maybe you sing songs with Native American protagonists to respond to and counter some of the actions of settler colonialism. All of these things, at least temporarily, offer a more nuanced understanding of the fullness and the consequences of the larger story that we inhabit. But often, in order for us to be able to understand the other narratives that people are trying to bring forward, they're caught. Because you have to speak in the language of the biggest story in order for people who are caught in that story to be able to understand what you're saying. And some of the most important ideas in these other narratives are really hard to express when you're speaking patriarchy or white supremacy or settler colonialism. And so as long as we still talk about that same elephant, and as long as we use the language that is descriptive of that same elephant, we're still reinforcing that particular elephant story. But it's still important to tell the other stories. And it's important to tell them as big stories, and it's also really important to tell them as tiny stories. There are all sorts of little stories that you and I tell every single day. We tell stories about, health and wellness and what it means to be human. When my story tells you that I trust my doctor and I trust science, and my husband and the kids and I all went and we got our vaccines actually before the most recent COVID vaccine was officially available, but my daughter sweet-talked the person at the counter because they were going to be releasing the vaccine on Friday, and it was a Sunday afternoon. And she had to go back to Albuquerque, so please, couldn't we get the vaccines today? That's a different vaccine story than the story about my neighbor who's really worried about the vaccine and doesn't want to get vaccinated and is afraid. Two different stories, different worldviews. We could tell a story about an unhoused person that we encounter, maybe in the parking lot at the grocery store. And we could say, well, they're doing the best that they can with the tools that they have, and they're caught in a hostile system. And maybe offer some help. Or we could tell the story that says they're dangerous and we better call security. And which little story we tell shapes how we see the world and how the world unfolds. We need lots of little stories that are not stories about the elephant, and that are actually not stories about the absence of the elephant either. We don't want to reverse patriarchy and create its opposite. We don't want to reverse heterosexism and create some other thing that is just sort of the mirror image. We want stories about all the things that have nothing to do with the big overarching narrative. Not about capitalism or patriarchy or evangelical Christianity or whatever the opposites of those things are. We need stepping stones and gateways to really different ways of seeing the world. Stories that invite us to experience what it means to be part of the planet. Stories of connection and survival, stories of interdependence, stories that acknowledge the depth of our grief and the possibility of healing, stories that celebrate diversity, gentle, life-affirming stories.
Each Sunday, we place 4 stones in our chalice to help us remember the future we are working for. The mountain-shaped stone prompts us to imagine a world where this place where we gather, called in Tewa, Ogopoge, meaning white shell place, is cared for joyfully by the descendants of its ancestral occupants, together with all of those who have come to love it and dwell in it. The geode inspires us to imagine a world where peace is endemic, and war is a thing from the distant past understood as an acute and deplorable failure of imagination. The ancient fossil-studded stone helps us to imagine a world thriving in the midst of climate change, a world where human participation contributes to a biosphere that is vibrant and diverse and deeply alive. The layered stone asks us to imagine that the vein of quartz that divides it actually holds it together. May it help us imagine a time when the differences between us are understood as boundaries that connect us. We honor these boundaries and our differences and use democratic processes to ensure that all of us thrive. These dreams of respect and peace, of a healthy planet and a robust democracy become reality as we and other good-hearted people around the world work together to unravel racism, mend generational patterns of violence, fight for democracy, and learn to live peacefully and regeneratively on our planet. May we find joy and meaning in these struggles.
All right. So we set aside a time after we talk about the stones to fill that bowl with candles, to share the stories of our lives, the things that are happening that are joyful or that are challenging, that are, shaping how our story unfolds in a particular week. So on October 12th, we have joy number 1, ceasefire, and hopes for much more to come. Thank you, President Trump, for your efforts. Joy number 2, this morning I learned that wind, solar, and other renewables now produce more energy than coal worldwide. That is worth celebrating. Those are from Jim Applegate. We also have an entry, a joy from Marco Silva, who writes, I have a joy having moved successfully to Santa Fe. That is no small accomplishment, as many of us know. And concerns with some very bad luck. First, the moving crew here destroyed 3 pieces of furniture and stole 3 boxes of valuable books. And second, I missed last Sunday because of the cheesy parking sticker at my building fell off, and I lost money because my car got towed. Oh, Marco, we hope things turn around quickly. Mary Nykirk writes in a joy. Mary Nykirk is in rehab after surgery and writes, slowly but surely, I am healing. I appreciate your calls and cards. Many blessings. Elizabeth is reminding us that people get older. We have celebrations of birthdays for Jim Bellamy, Jim Applegate, and Brent Farler this week. And we have gifts. Gifts, guests, kind of the same. It is one of the great blessings of being a congregation here in Santa Fe that so many people visit our city and so many Unitarian Universalists take a time out of their visit and come and visit with us. So, if you are feeling extroverted this morning, you are invited to wave as I read your name. If you are feeling introverted, you are not required to do so, but that doesn't guarantee that you will escape unnoticed. Someone might still say hello to you. So Joyce Gibson, welcome Joyce. Krista Broderick, welcome Krista. Wendy from Tasuki. Doug and Merrill from Santa Rosa, California, welcome. Connie Acosta, Sheila Whitford, and Janet Murrah from Houston, Texas, and Albuquerque, yay, welcome. Soleil and Francis and Jaco and Elise, who have been visitors with us before, and David Holthouse, also a Santa Fe resident. We hope you will join us for coffee after the service and stay a while and talk. It would be lovely to get to know you better. Would you light one last candle? For the sorrows and joys that we have shared, and for all the sorrows and joys that we carry still in the recesses of our hearts, unspoken. You're invited to join me for Spirit of Life, if you know Spirit of Life. I think our guests are going to lead us. I'll sign. You can listen or you can sing along.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Oh, in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Resting on the echoes of the music, let's move into a time of quiet and contemplation. I invite you to close your eyes if that's comfortable for you, to take a breath, and as you exhale, to consciously allow your body to relax. Breathe and let your thoughts drift. Breathe and let your heart soften and open. Let it expand until it can contain all of the sorrows and joys, all the beauty and anguish, all of the despair and hope that are part of being human in this time. Breathe. Breathe. And as you feel your heart unfolding, let yourself be aware of the other people in this gathering, the ones who are near you in the room and the ones who are watching online. Notice that you do not have to do this holding alone. You yourself are held in a web of affection and positive regard. Together, we can face whatever is to come. Now, last week I introduced loving kindness or metta meditation. It really is about telling a different story about your life and the lives of the people with whom you interact. And so we start with ourselves, asking for care and support. And then we move to asking for the same good things for people who are close to us, for people who are sort of neutral in our worlds, whom we recognize but don't know. And then for people with whom we are challenged in some way, people we are uncomfortable with or afraid of. We ask for them as well, the good things in life, knowing that hurt people, and that healed people have an opportunity to make different choices. And so I invite you to ask for yourself in this next moment, to open your heart, to let yourself be filled with warmth and positive regard, and to say, may I be happy. May I be well. May I be safe. May I be peaceful and at ease. And I invite you to envision someone you deeply love, to hold them in your heart and in your mind's eye, and to offer them this sense of acceptance and caring. May you be happy. May you be well. May you be safe. May you be peaceful and at ease. Now extend that sense and that affection and that regard to someone who is sitting near you in the room. Don't open your eyes, just hold them in your mind's eye and say, may you be happy. May you be well. May you be safe. May you be peaceful and at ease. And now bring to mind someone you recognize but don't know, someone neutral. Maybe the checker at the grocery store, or maybe some person or group that you don't know but to whom your heart goes out. Immigrants or trans youth or that person in the parking lot we talked about earlier. And offer them this loving kindness. Say, may you be happy. May you be well. May you be safe. May you be peaceful and at ease. And now we're sort of in the flow and we've practiced. Call to mind someone who is challenging, someone you are fearful of, someone you may dislike. Remember, you are held in the affection of the community. And let us say, may you be peaceful. May you be happy. May you be well. May you be safe and at ease. And now, may all beings be happy. May all beings be well. May all beings be safe. May all beings be peaceful and at ease.
Our next reading comes from Arundhati Roy in their publication War Talk. Another world is not only possible, but she is on her way. Maybe many of us won't be here to greet her, but on a quiet day, if I listen carefully, I can hear her breathing.
Right? A little tiny story that's a glimpse into a much bigger series of stories where things could be different. Back to Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. Stories matter. Many stories matter. Stories have been used to dispossess and to malign, but they can also be used to empower and to humanize. They can break the dignity of a people, but they can also repair that broken dignity. When we reject the idea of a single story, when we realize that there is never just a single story about a place or about a people or about an event, we realize we regain a kind of paradise. Many stories allow us the possibilities that feel like being part of paradise. I'm really tired of the elephant in the room. I am so disenchanted with the competitive, violent, zero-sum, winner-take-all, capitalist, patriarchal, radically autonomous, white supremacist narratives that dominate the news these days. You know, there are other stories out there, but there seems to be a concerted effort to reinstate and reinforce this sort of hegemony of a particular elephant. Forgive me, spirit of elephants, for using you this way. So many of the conflicts that we are caught in really are just side effects or logical entailments of the stories that we've been telling for the past, almost a couple of thousand years. And while some folks really like the stories and seem to be retelling them more and more loudly, there are a whole lot of us that are just fed up and ready for something else. Now, I am the mother of a son as well as the mother of a daughter. And so I know that if you are a white male and you are learning American history in the 2000s, you are going to discover over and over again, unless somehow the clocks get turned back or we find a different way to tell the story, you're going to discover repeatedly that you are no longer the hero in that story. You are increasingly the villain. And who wants to be the bad guy, right? That's one of the reasons the stories have to get retold in the first place. Who wants to be the bad guy? Or the victim? Or the person who's so much part of the furniture that we don't even hear about them? We don't even get their name. I don't know about you, but I'm not going to opt in to any story world that doesn't give people like me valuable, dignified, creative, and important roles to play in the unfolding of the world. And I don't expect anybody else to opt in if they're not given choices that respect their inherent dignity and their human worth. I want to offer that whole villain, victim, hero constellation is one we might want to abandon completely. Because all three roles are toxic. You can't be a hero if you don't have a villain or a victim. And who wants to be the villain or the victim. We need a whole bunch of other roles and a whole bunch of other stories, right? Because there are lots of characters in any narrative that are not villains and victims and heroes, right? There are survivors. And there are broken people, and there are healers and makers and translators and scientists. There are visionaries and guides. And wouldn't it be way more fun to step into one of those roles in whatever is unfolding around you, rather than being told you have 3 choices and only one of them is going to get any strokes? So, where do we find the new stories? The stories about all of those other roles, about the different ways of resolving the conflicts and the incidents that we find ourselves confronted with. There's a dilemma for those of us who descend from Northern European ancestors and whose faith grew from liberal and Enlightenment thinking. And the challenge is that even though a lot of good things came out of the things that some of our ancestors did, many of the traditions and stories we inherited, and much of the sort of broad worldview that grew from those stories, aren't very life-affirming anymore. You know, they were ways to address something that happened in a moment, but when we lean on them now, even when we're trying to focus on the good stuff, all the extra baggage comes along. We spent some time a couple of years ago seriously editing UU Santa Fe's collection of children's books, because there were a lot of children's books that contained really negative gender stereotypes, right? There were a lot of old stories that had racist imagery or just didn't fit with our UU values anymore. And it wasn't going to work for us to offer those to young people as part of their spiritual and religious education. And so we put those particular books aside, and we saved the books that had positive imagery and healthy gender roles, and we bought a bunch more books to sort of flesh out the collection. I wish that we could look out the window or order from a catalog and just import a whole new value system, a whole new worldview that would solve all the problems. I wish Unitarian Universalism was the perfect frame for the future that we want. But everything that exists in the world that we are in is entangled with that elephant. And we can't just adopt somebody else's worldview, whether we're enamored of Taoism or of Native American culture, for several reasons. First of all, there's a translation issue. Worldviews are often incommensurable. They don't make sense in each other's frames of reference. And so while I might think, standing where I stand in my upbringing and my theological training, while I might think I'm doing an accurate translation of Taoist culture, I might be way off base because I'm looking at it through my own lens. You got to step completely into the other worldview before you begin to get an inkling of what it's really about. So translation is one issue. A second issue is that cultural appropriation of a worldview that your culture has colonized just reenacts that colonization. And so you can't stand outside of it and take it. There's a different way. And the third reason you can't just adopt somebody else's paradigm is because when you really look at them, a lot of the other worldviews also have challenging elements. They also contain patriarchal imagery and gender binaries and hierarchical structures that say some people are more worthy than others. To create a new life-affirming culture, to grow into the world we want to see on the far side of the disruption we're living through, we're going to actually have to make some new stories. We're going to have to imagine some new stories. And the first thing we have to let go of is the idea that there's going to be one big story that guides that process. What's more likely to happen is that we're going to collect a whole library full of stories. Little stories about the future is coming and we can hear her breathing. Little stories about peace really being possible. Little stories about gentleness being worthy of celebration. And we're going to have to collect a lot of them, in part because we don't know which ones are going to be helpful 3 years from now, 5 years from now, a century from now. Now, one of the books that I encountered in grad school a million years ago was a book by Lakoff and Johnson called Metaphors We Live By. And there was a key idea here where they said, you know, we humans, we organize the world by taking things we understand, our lived, physical, embodied experiences of standing up and lying down, of climbing a mountain, of eating food, of sleeping. And we use those to describe things that are intangible. So we describe freedom as being like flying or running or floating, because those are the physical things that feel freeing to us. And one of the things Lakoff and Johnson suggest is that when we encounter something new, an experience that is new, it gives us the basis for a new metaphor, right? New experiences reorganize how you understand the world, and they give you the basis for thinking something new. Well, friends, new experiences are not hard to come by in our lifetimes. Have you noticed? Who remembers watching the first human being walk on the moon? Yeah. I bet you know exactly where you were and who was with you. Being able to see the Earth from space, being able to image what's happening inside of our bodies, understanding DNA and being able to edit our genome to cure disease, the availability of birth control and the ability to plan your family, the unpredictability of climate chaos, the round-the-clock, round-the-world immersion in the social media cycle, the more fluid experience of gender that people are able to articulate now, the experience of being a child who lives mostly under adult supervision, mostly indoors, and far more online than any of us oldsters do. That's going to change how they see the world. And we're going to have to work to understand the metaphors they come up with. The interdependent economies and pop culture that are so visible because of the media. The shared experience of resisting autocracy again and trying to shore up democracy again. The figuring out how to recognize when something was done by AI and how to use AI rather than having AI use us. All of these are experiences that don't quite make sense with the lived metaphors that we're used to using to make sense of things. All of these are experiences that are going to challenge us to understand the world in a different way. Now, there are two things to hold on to as we go forward. One, during the transition from one set of stories describing the world to a different way of understanding the world, it's not going to make sense. There are going to be a lot of pieces of stories out there all at the same time, and we're going to have to pick and choose the ones that work best, and it's not going to fit together smoothly, at least not at first. And secondly, the most viable way to generate an inclusive new culture is to include everyone's stories. The old and the young and the in-between, the male and the female and the non-binary, European and Hispanic and Indigenous and African American and Asian and Pacific Islander and Democrat and Republican and socialist and independent and poor and working class and educated and intellectual, all the stories. And the way we are able to profit from and learn from each other's wisdom is if we're building the culture together. If we're telling each other our stories and listening to each other's stories and choosing which stories to share, then the story world we create on the far side is a story world that is far more inclusive and far more humane, we hope, than any other culture we could build. In her novel, her science fiction novel, Maroons, author Adrienne Maree Brown writes, "Making culture together is the path towards belonging." Making culture together. Whether it's a patchwork culture or a collage culture, it's going to be made, woven together from a lot of different stories and a lot of different experiences. And hopefully, the wisdom of all of us is stronger than any one of us, and the world on the far side will be better. So, we're in a really story-dense moment this weekend. It's Columbus Day weekend, which is also Indigenous Peoples Day weekend. We're kind of at the tail end of Sukkot. We're at the beginning of a ceasefire in Gaza. We are at the tail end of Hispanic and Latinx History Month, and at the tail end of the Balloon Fiesta and Banned Books Week. We are in the middle of the Santa Fe International Film Festival, and we're about a week out from the next No Kings Gathering. It's a really story-dense time, and so I want to challenge you to go story hunting, okay? Tomorrow and in the days ahead, I invite you to go to the movies or the bookstore or the library, to events down on the plaza, and to start looking for new stories to help you understand our changing world. I invite you to look for stories told from different perspectives and stories that describe new realities, maybe even imaginary new realities, in life-affirming ways. And when you kind of get the hang of it, I invite you to start telling some new stories as well. Oh, and in order to make room for all the new stories you're going to be collecting, starting tomorrow morning, UU Santa Fe is going to accept your old stories, your old books, as donations for the book sale. May it be so. So, who is charged with saying some wonderful words about the offering. Do we know? Sherry thinks it's her. Are you up to it, Sherry, or would you like me to speak on behalf? Mike, will you speak? Will you speak in behalf of Explorations? Sherry is still on the mend after a bout with COVID, and so we are giving her extra healing space in her obligations.
You owe me. Well, Explorations. Explorations is the team that coordinates all the different kinds of adult and someday, we hope, when we have enough youth and children programming that we offer here. And of course, like everything else, that takes your hard-earned dollars to make it run. So we will accept the offering gratefully to support all of us learning how to tell new stories in our explorations.
Earth and sky, sea and stone, hold this land in sacredness. Earth and sky, sea and stone, hold this land in sacredness. Malama ikaheya, hey malama ikaheya, hey malama pono ikaheya, hey malama ikaheya, hey malama ikaheya, hey malama pono ikaheya.
3 very brief announcements before we go to our extinguishing our chalice and our hand-holding benediction. First, do not forget to stop by and add to the Sorry Book with Dominique Mazot. If you go out the doors and you turn left, you'll see a little temple kind of set up. This is a space where we can offer apologies for the consequences of the stories that we have told or lived through. It's one step towards beginning restoring the future. Second, Adelante, a group that has been our community partner in the past, has asked for toiletries to help support the families in their program. Adelante supports vulnerable and precariously housed families with children in our public schools. They need family-sized bottles of body wash, shampoo, conditioner. They need lotion and toothpaste and a couple of other things. There's a square box on the shelf outside the door on this side of the foyer with a list. We're going to be collecting for the next 2 Sundays, and then we will deliver it to them. And finally, next Saturday is October 18th. The No Kings Rally is more complicated this time. Watch for an email with very specific details about all the different ways that you can participate. But please know that Dirk and Jim Aspero, Jim, would you wave? There you go, and Dirk is right here. We'll be meeting people who are interested at 10:45 in the UU parking lot on October 18th, and They will leave with everyone who shows up by 11 and walk down to the Roundhouse. The event promises to be one of the largest in U.S. history. Also, if you have a bell, you remember when we rang the bells for DC? If you have a bell, bring it to the protest. We're going to be using them. All right, let's extinguish that chalice and let people move on with their day.
All right. The words for extinguishing our chalice are also by Reverend Michelle Collins, who, if you recall, gave us our opening chalice lighting words. Our time together ends, but compassion's work continues. May you carry forward the courage to choose kindness over convenience, remembering that your gentle choices ripple outward, healing our broken world one encounter at a time.
All right, reach out and take the hand of someone who is sitting or standing near you. And repeat after me. May love and skill be in our hands. May love and courage fill our hearts. May love and wisdom light our minds. May love flow through us and walk among us as we live our lives and work to heal our world. Amen, shalom, namaste, blessed be. Assalamu alaikum, ashe, aho. Please turn and greet your neighbors and thank you for joining us today, friends. We hope that you enjoyed today's service. Please take a little time and explore our website and visit our online welcome table if you'd like to know more about us. Otherwise, we'll see you next Sunday morning. Stay in touch and be well.